Everyone moving to South Florida right now has the same question: Miami or Palm Beach? On their surface, you might think they're one and the same. We have sunshine, we have great taxes, we've got beaches, but the reality is they could not be further from each other. It's an entirely different buyer profile, it's an entirely different economic setup, and there's just an entirely different lifestyle between Palm Beach and Miami. Of course, in Miami, we have a little bit of everything, but we've got density, we've got all kind of culture, we've got all kinds of things that are happening, and they're all happening at the speed of light. When you compare that to Palm Beach, it is a completely different vibe. Palm Beach, of course, is a lot slower. The vibe is nice and calm. Properties are a lot larger. There's a lot less density, but it is fast becoming one of the financial hubs of the entire United States, and the wealth collection that's happening in Palm Beach right now, especially on the island, is out of control. If you're considering relocating to South Florida, this is one of the most important decisions you're going to make, and so many people get it wrong. They think, what is the difference? We have beach, we have sun, and they're so close to each other. How could they be so different? Really, they could not be more opposite. So in this video, we're going to dive into all things Palm Beach and Miami. We're going to compare costs of entry point. We're going to compare lifestyles. We're going to compare what exactly is there to do in both cities so that you can have a very informed decision. I'm Riley Smith, and I run one of the largest real estate teams here in South Florida, the Riley Smith Group. We specialize in residential real estate all over South Florida. Palm Beach versus Miami is a conversation I have all the time when I'm talking on the phone to people who are thinking about moving to South Florida. They don't understand how far apart they are and how vastly they differ. So this is going to be a really exciting topic for us to dive into today. So let's start with the biggest difference, and one that matters the most. It's the overall feel of both of these communities. One feels like a global city, while the other one almost feels like a private members-only club. If I had to describe to you the vibe of both of these places in one sentence and the difference, I would tell you that Miami is a hustling, fast-paced, high-energy, action-packed place to live, whereas Palm Beach is certainly the opposite of that. It is laid back, it's quiet, it's a lot calmer, and they just move at a completely different pace than we do down here in Miami. There's no denying it when you look at the kind of people that are moving to both places. When you look at Miami, obviously we are a melting pot of 10, 20, 30 different countries, different nationalities. We have people from all over the United States moving down here. As a matter of fact, probably in Miami, there's very few Miamians even left anymore. Move up the coast just a little bit and look at Palm Beach. They have a very different lifestyle, very different demographic. Certainly, I think there's a lot more money collected in wealth in a very small space, and I think that does change it. There's also some very large generational properties up there that have been held by single families for over and over generations and generations. So the two are just completely different. That's what makes this video so exciting for me to break down. I think we see a lot of people that come to South Florida and they're not sure of the entire landscape. You can imagine it takes you a good hour to drive from Miami to Palm Beach. So there is a lot of real estate in between. But when people land here in Miami, I think some of them anyway, are caught off guard by how fast-paced the city is, how a little crazy our city is, right? And of course, the traffic is definitely out of control. So for some people, I think it's just not the right fit for them. And I think those are the people that generally gravitate up the coast a little bit towards Palm Beach. We've had a lot of clients that have come down to Miami and purchased properties here. And after a few years, just came to us and said, Riley, I just can't take the pace of life here. I just can't take how everything is everything is harder and takes longer to get done down in Miami. I'm looking for something a little more relaxed. And generally, those people find themselves heading up coast to Palm Beach. Now let's talk money. And this is where things get interesting. I find that a lot of people have the misimpression of what they can get in both Palm Beach and Miami. When we talk about home prices, it's kind of an interesting thing to look at, right? Because of course you can look at the median price, and if you look at the median price of a single family home in Miami or a median price of a single family home in Palm Beach, they're almost identical, with Miami being around $700,000 and Palm Beach being around $675,000. But that's the median price. But of course, when you start to look at different neighborhoods and different pockets, things really change fast. When you think Palm Beach, most people think beach, sun, being on the island. And certainly the median price on the island is an astronomical 4.2 compared to the 700,000 of all of Palm Beach. Because also you have to remember, you have the island and then you have West Palm and the surrounding area there. So as we think of Palm Beach, we think of that coast up and down A1A, the coastline. Maybe you know the famous breakers and all the houses that are around that area. But that's just a small part of really Palm Beach. The real Palm Beach actually extends on the other side of the bridge and is a pretty big sized community with a lot of homes that are certainly a lot more affordable than $4.2, $4.3 million. In Miami, of course, we all know the big name pockets. We have South Beach, we have up and down the islands, we have Key Biscayne, Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, where the homes are well over, sometimes 3-4 times the median pricing. When you look at these two communities, you can't just look at them from a million miles away. You really got to look at them individually. There's certain pockets that compare, and there's certain pockets that are totally different. When you're starting to look for a home in both communities, one of the things that really stands out right away is that Palm Beach seems to have a little more privacy, a little more land, and just about every other house is in some kind of a gated community or some kind of an area that has all kinds of other things like amenities and pools and clubhouses. Certainly have a lot more golf courses than we do down here. And when you're looking at houses down in Miami, we don't have nearly as many gated communities. We don't have the planned communities. We have just a lot of different pockets that have become more popular, but it's not these big overall communities where you drive into a gate and you have a clubhouse, a pool, and all these extra amenities, and certainly a lot of golf up in Palm Beach. An interesting fact that I think a lot of people don't really realize is that Palm Beach is probably more pricey to get your house, but it's actually cheaper to live there day to day. I think when you look at Miami, the big city, and all that goes on here, it has this fast-paced, sexy, glamour lifestyle, and what comes with that is probably a little bit elevated pricing on everything. If you're comparing restaurants, I certainly think the restaurants in Miami are probably more expensive than the restaurants in Palm Beach, and obviously all of the little day-to-day things. For whatever reason, Palm Beach, the cost of living seems to be a little bit less, where in Miami, I think our prices have certainly escalated and now are certainly a lot more just to go day to day here in Miami. When we talk about long-term value in either community, it's really hard to look at each one as a whole. You would really have to break down all of the little neighborhoods. However, I do see a trend of people leaving Miami and headed to Palm Beach, and I certainly see a trend of people who are coming from up north, particularly up and down the East Coast in New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, that area. As they're making their way south, more and more of them are stopping up near Palm Beach area instead of coming all the way down South Florida. So I think Palm Beach is probably going to continue to grow, and I actually believe it may actually outpace Miami in a lot of different metrics. So those people I talked about who are coming from up north, I think when they get to Palm Beach, they feel a little more like home. I think if you go to Palm Beach, right, it doesn't have the hustle bustle of Miami. It's not so dense and packed and crazy. The traffic is, of course, much nicer than that. The people coming from the suburbs and up and down the East Coast that we talked about find that a little bit more comforting because it is and looks a lot like where they are right now, just no snow and a lot of sun and beaches. Both of these two areas do have in common is that they are far outpacing the rest of the country in number of cash purchases. We're talking 43% in Miami, 42% in Palm Beach. They're almost identical. And when you look at the national average for cash purchases around the country, we're only around 27%. So these two areas are certainly seeing a lot more cash-rich, heavy buyers coming in that are very comfortable putting down cash for their property and not getting a mortgage. Beyond price, the actual property you're going to purchase is going to be probably completely different from Palm Beach to South Florida. In Miami, we're going vertical. We have run out of land. Where Palm Beach, they still have plenty of room to expand. And so we're certainly looking at more single family there than we are here in Miami, where now the trend is condos, 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 more coming into town. So when we're looking at the different types of properties, of course, right now, as I mentioned, Miami's trending in the way of more and more condos because we are really run out of land and it's so dense. So you're seeing more and more new development, more condos coming on the market in Miami. Head up the highway just a little bit and look at Palm Beach. You're seeing a lot more gated communities, planned development communities. You're seeing a lot of the same kind of construction homes on every corner in these communities, where in Miami, when you drive down any given street, you can see 10 different styles of homes. So the two are very different in the respect that Palm Beach has certainly been planned out a little bit more organized and built on a massive scale, where in Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, and the hot spots in Miami are sort of built one house at a time, and that adds to a lot more diversity in our housing here in Miami than you get in Palm Beach. What surprises buyers, especially when they start touring in Miami, is how much different architecture we have here. We have something for everybody. We've got the cute little old Spanish and the new modern boxes, the Key West styles, the old Mediterranean that we had going on, and then we've got a section of ranches and all kinds. Miami, the diversity of our product is completely different than what you see in Palm Beach. Palm Beach, almost all the homes seem to look very similar, right? They're mostly one-story homes with these tile roofs. Again, they're in larger lots in gated communities that we've talked about. So you don't have the diversity there. You don't seeing the massive build of new construction modern homes going on there that you do here in South Florida. When you're looking to buy a home in Miami, especially a single family home, you're not used to is HOA fees. We just don't have a lot of communities here that have HOA fees. Everybody's on their own street, on their own block, and taking care of their own property. Where when you go to Palm Beach and the surrounding areas, there's super heavy HOA communities. What I mean by HOA is homeowner associations, where you're going to pay a fee to live in a certain area, but they're going to maintain common areas. They're going to have guards. Some of them are going to have clubhouses that you can use, pools, gyms, spas, and all kind of other amenities. So it's a little bit of a different lifestyle. Up there, more and more people share in the price of these amenities, where here in South Florida, people seem to be buying and building these amenities into their own homes. HOAs can have positive and negative things going on. I think a con of being in an HOA, of course, is that you're at the mercy of some people deciding how much more you're going to spend. And generally, especially for somebody like me, they generally have a lot more rules. Down here in South Florida, when you have your own house, you can pretty much do whatever you want with your house. You can paint it whatever color you want, with the exception of Coral Gables. When you get yourself into an HOA, you got to understand that you're going to have to sort of blend in with everybody else, and you're going to lose some of your individuality, as they want to keep all of these communities looking the same. And for me, that's a nightmare, if I'm being honest with you. That's why I live in Coconut Grove, where we live and let live, and you can just, do whatever you want to your house. One of the things we talk about when we're looking at two different communities is inventory and supply for buyers and sellers. Right now, there are so much more condo inventory here in South Florida. We're talking like 13 months worth of condo inventory, where if you look at a single family home up in Palm Beach area, you're talking like 4 months. So there's just not as many single family home opportunities up there in Palm Beach as there are certainly condo opportunities here, which generally makes it better and more economical for buyers. One of the reasons the condos are so prevalent here in South Florida is we have a lot of people coming here part-time, and that's been a big part of our market for as long as I can remember. That second home, that second property, that you're just coming in, popping in for a little while, but you're not staying here for a very long period of time. Whereas you look at Palm Beach, I think you're seeing more and more people, if they are coming here, they're coming here for 6 months at a time. They want to have a single family home. They don't want to just have the convenience and the amenities of living with everybody else. Or you have the residents that are totally relocating and going to be living there full time, generally are trying to find a house. Let's talk about something that people don't really think about until they're already living there. You really want space? Well, you have to consider that that may come with a 20 to 25 minute drive to get just about anywhere. So there are some pros and cons to living in a bigger city or living into a city that's a little more spread out. And I think you have to make sure you take into consideration your lifestyle when you're looking at these two places. Certainly, if you're talking walkability, Miami's going to have a much better walkable footprint. If you can live in downtown in Brickell and you can walk to everything you need, Coral Gables is walkable, Coconut Grove is walkable. Certainly, there are stretches of Miami Beach where it's very walkable. When you look at it in Palm Beach, and certainly there's a lot more going on in Palm Beach, and Palm Beach is changing so fast. Matter of fact, the other day we took the Bright Line up there. We did do some walking right around the downtown West Palm area, which is really exploding. And then, of course, if you get on the island, you do have some walkability on Worth Avenue, but you don't have a whole lot of it. If you're on the island, you're getting in a car to go just about anywhere you want. Maybe you're going to ride a bike up and down A1A, but the walkability of these two cities is completely different. One of the things that's been really cool is the addition of the Bright Line here in South Florida. Jump on a train, be in Palm Beach in 1 hour and 10 minutes. You don't have to fight any traffic. You don't have to think about anything. It drops you right in the heart of West Palm in a fantastic area that has all kinds of shops and things to do, to walk into. Or then when you get off, you can grab an Uber and jump over to the island real quickly. I think it has really helped connect these two places a lot more than people realize. When I was on a train, I couldn't help but see how many people were riding up and down between Miami and Palm Beach just on a daily basis. When we think about where do you need a car, you absolutely have to have a car if you're going to live in Palm Beach. I don't know any spot in Palm Beach where you're going to be able to survive without a car. Where if you want to come to Miami, you can get away without a car. We do have public transportation. We do have the Metro Rail. We do have the People Mover downtown. If you live downtown in Brickell area, you could go days, weeks, or months without having to get into a car. You can commute from your apartment to the restaurants, to the shops, to your work without ever riding in a car. Perhaps get in a People Mover, perhaps get on one of the trolleys. Where in Palm Beach, everything is so spread out that you've got to have a car, and some families probably even have 2 or 3 cars. Traffic is traffic is traffic. I think traffic everywhere is bad, but certainly in Palm Beach, it's not nearly as dense as it is down here in Miami. So driving around there is not nearly as frustrating and doesn't take you nearly as long as it does to go a short distance over there. But when we were there exploring, we saw hardly any traffic at any given moment in Miami. If you turn on that little map in your car, all you see is red everywhere. It's gotten so bad, it's not just rush hour here in Miami. There's traffic in Miami 24 hours a day nowadays. And certainly in Palm Beach, it is a lot slower pace when it comes to traffic. Now, if you've got kids or you're planning on starting a family, this next section may be really important to you. Most people start to research schools after they've already made a move and fallen in love with the neighborhood. I think this is a big mistake. I think schools are something that is so vital to the family. You need to be thinking about them before you make your choice. When we look at the school systems of both places, we have to take a minute and dissect what they really look like. Certainly Miami is a massive, massive community, maybe 10 times the size of Palm Beach. So we have all kinds of public schools from rated A, probably all the way down to rated D. But I think it's pretty widely understood and known that Palm Beach County probably has better public schools across the board than we do here in South Florida. On the opposite side, you could easily say that down here in Miami, we probably have some of the best private schools in the state of Florida, if not entire country. And yes, Palm Beach does have some private schools, but my understanding is that most people up there are very satisfied and happy with the public school options that they have, and they are not being funneled into private schools that we see more and more people going towards here in South Florida, especially here in the heart of Miami. Let's talk a little bit about when you're making your choice for your school and what impact that's going to have on you. Let's just start with Palm Beach, and we start to say these are the best public school areas. So the challenge there is you have to live inside the district. There's a little geographical map around the school, and you have to live and reside there if you want to go to that particular school. And there, some of the public schools are significantly better than others, so there is like a competition to get into these neighborhoods. While in Miami, it's very different. We have a plethora of private schools here, like I said, some of the best in the country. They're very hard to get into, but the beauty of private schools is that you can choose to live anywhere you want in Miami, so you have that freedom and flexibility, and then you can just have to commute to the school. We do have the public school system, of course, and in those school systems, the better schools, those neighborhoods are also more sought after, but again, you do have to live in that district to go to that school. So it's a little bit of a different thing here in Miami. You kind of wait to see what private school you get into, and maybe you make your home choice. Whereas up in Palm Beach, I think you make your home choice based on what school for sure you want to go into, and then you have to live within that geographical area. In both communities, we've definitely seen clients that have shifted their searches based on which school they decided they want to go to and how close they need to be for their lifestyle, right? Again, in Miami, I mentioned you don't have to live in the district, but of course, with our traffic, you don't get the luxury of just living anywhere and commuting to schools. When you're thinking about schools, it's just as important as the location. Your life is going to be centered around the schools, and you're going to be coming and going multiple times. So you got to think about traffic, you got to think how far away you are, or you have to think about which district do I want to live in to have the best opportunity to go to that school. If we zoom out and look at this from a different perspective, I really think it comes down to who each place is built for. Pick the wrong one, and within 6 months, I guarantee you're going to know you made the wrong decision. When we break down the buyer pool for the two areas, there's some things that stand out right away. Of course, Miami is so much more international than Palm Beach. Palm Beach is certainly much more made in the USA than Miami, certainly made in all countries all over the world, right? We just have a much more diverse population here. Younger population that's gravitating towards more work, more jobs. There's certainly more opportunities for jobs here, where in Palm Beach, we have more people with better means, better wealth, and certainly a lot more retirees in that part of town. But things are changing. There are almost 300 hedge funds in Palm Beach, and this is a new trend that's been happening since COVID. So there is a financial incentive and a financial movement headed towards Palm Beach. It's not just big city Miami, but in general, I think you're going to find that people coming to Miami are looking for just a lot more nightlife and a lot more going on and a different hustle and bustle and energy. And people who want to go to Palm Beach are looking for a quieter life, a place to take it easy, and where everything is not so high-paced and intense. What's interesting is, although Miami is so much larger than Palm Beach, there is massive demand for both of them. So it's hard to say which one has more demand. I think they have different kinds of demand, but percentage-wise, I feel like both places are going to continue to explode. For a lot of my life, people thought of Palm Beach as that place to retire to. Whether you had a lot of money and you retired to the island, or whether not quite as much means and you retired to the west side of Palm Beach or out a little more in that direction. But I think Palm Beach is changing, and I think it's changing fast, and I don't think it has the same stigma as it does. Percentage-wise, I feel like a lot more retirees there, but I don't think that's the same stigma that it used to be. I feel like there's so much more happening there, and I think a lot more financial hubs are coming in, bringing in some younger, new people there. So I think that has changed a little bit, where in Miami, certainly, you don't think of Miami as a place you retire to. You usually think of Miami as a place you retire from. When we're working with buyers who are generally on the fence between lifestyle in Palm Beach and lifestyle in Miami, guiding them is really not that hard. All it takes is spending a little bit of time in each community and making sure that they understand how they're going to live and how and what each community is going to offer them in terms of their lifestyle and their next moves. Also, you have to think about price points, right? How much money do you have and you're going to spend on your housing, kids, and the other part of your life? I think these are some of the factors, but it is really hard to help people make that decision. I find it's a decision that they make by themselves after spending a little bit of time in both communities. So here's the bottom line. Miami's not better than Palm Beach. Palm Beach is not better than Miami. They're just for very different people. If you want energy, international, walkability, these are all the things that come to mind when I think about Miami. And if you want a little bit quieter, softer, easier pace of life, that's what I think about when it comes to Palm Beach. The real key is understanding yourself and how you're actually going to live day to day. Do you have to commute to downtown? Are you going to work from home? Are you retired? Are you just starting a family? There's so many factors that go into making a decision like this. The real key is understanding what lifestyle you're looking for in your move to South Florida before you make a decision between Palm Beach and Miami. If you're thinking about making a move to South Florida, we are definitely here to help you. Whether you're trying to decide whether it's Palm Beach or Miami, we can help you with both areas. So if you like this video, you find it interesting, drop me a comment below. Make sure you reach out to us, and we're here to help you figure out the perfect relocation. I'll see you on the next one.